Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. It is not hard at all to get the information, my friends. It's not hard to get the information if you know what you're looking for, and from there you can open different doors and get more information and knowledge. And then with that, you make a pattern, you connect the dots. You're going to find out who's who, what's what. You just need to, spend some time, and it's not a lot. It's not a lot of time that you have to spend. 2 clicks and you find out who's who, what's what. Now, this article that I'm going to cover here is one of those articles that show you who is who and what is what. And they're going to demask or unmask Al Capone's principles and values. Okay, so here is an article from Russia Today, which is, and this article will show us who's who, what's what. Listen to this. United Nations votes overwhelmingly to condemn the United States embargo of Cuba. But guess the countries that are joining the United States in its opposition. One country. Can you guess who that is? So the US and Israel were the only 2 out of 190 United Nations members to oppose the document's adoption. So on one side was the world, and on the other side was United States of America and Israel. And it's not over. You're going to find out another guy joining in, but not as on US's side, but as a abstention. He abstained, or she. The UN General Assembly has adopted its annual resolution calling on Washington to end its decades-long economic blockade of Cuba. The document, which has been adopted for the 31st time, received nearly unanimous support, with only the US and Israel opposing it out of the 190 nations present at the vote. Ukraine was the only member to abstain. So, isn't it strange that there's 2 big wars nowadays, which is one in Ukraine, the other one is in Israel, and they are voting for United States alone? That should make you connect some dots if you didn't do it already. I wonder why. Remember, when these guys are telling you about the world community, now that's the world community, 190 against 2. Now, what's the problem here? What's the problem with Cuba? It's Batista's domain. The dictator Batista was overthrown by Castro. Remember where Fidel Castro went the first time? In visit, after he took over? He went to the United States of America, didn't he? And how was he treated? Like a rat. And then what did he do? He went to Moscow after that and went some hunting trips, some vodka drinking, some ladies talking, and with Khrushchev. And then he became a satellite of Soviet Union because the United States blockaded everybody over there, so blocked everybody. Now, this is what I don't like, is United States has a problem. The only country that has a problem with Cuba is the government of the United States of America, let's put it this way. Their interest, their economic interest, that's all, economic interest. Now, if United States has a policy against this country, that's between the 2 of them. But why are other countries that are staying away from investing and dealing economically and politically with Cuba? Because United States of America, which is the guy in charge, tells these vassal states, stay and back off. That means they're not independent. So I'm okay if I have a problem with a neighbor, but I'm not going to go to everybody else in the neighborhood and say, if you guys go and go to my neighbor's party that I don't like, I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm going to place embargoes on you. No, you tell me how moral is that? And besides, if you, let's say you have principles and values, how come that only Israel joins you in this thing? Because right now Israel needs US in what? In hitting Iran and everybody else in the Middle East? And not only that, why do you think Ukraine abstained? For the same reason. Now, if you're independent, sovereign, country and strong country, you should not be afraid to tell the United States, you know what, that's your policy, that's not mine. But you see, this is how the world works. Blackmail, threats, regime change, and invasions. So that's a sorry-ass situation over there, view of how the United States remained alone only with Israel. The obvious suspects. Now, do you remember how the United Nations voted to cease fire in Israel, in Gaza? Do you know how many countries were over there? Do you remember how many countries? 14 that voted against the resolution to. It was not a binding resolution. That means it didn't have any teeth. It was just an, hey, we condemn that, let's have a ceasefire. United States was one that did not want to have a ceasefire. Obviously Israel, Austria, Czech Republic, Fiji, and Paraguay, I think, and another Baluba Bakabalaga Bogubagabagaba that you never heard of. All right? And that's the reality. It was no Great Britain, it was no France, it was not Germany that voted together when I made a video on that one. So again, told you who's who, what's what. Now, where was the world community? On United States' side or the rest? The rest, I think about 40 countries obtained, and 120 or something like this voted, for the resolution. So it was 120 versus 14, and about 40 abstained or something like that. It doesn't mean that those 120 were right, or the 40 were right, or the 14 were right. But at least it shows who's who, what's what, who's against a ceasefire in Gaza. United States of America, Israel, and the countries I mentioned. So same here. The country that is against stopping the embargo on Cuba is Israel. Why? Do you think Israel has something to do with Cuba? Israel doesn't give a fuck about Cuba, as Ukraine. They do it just because of the sponsor. So do you think the vote and the allegiance over there was based on truth and our understanding and principle? No, it was a weasel decision. You can't have one. I mean, you can, because when I need to, I give the Galileo Galilei example, where he was alone, not quite alone. There were some other scientists that ended up burned, but that's a different story, like Giordano Bruno and Copernic and so on. So he was the only one against the rest. And everybody were afraid that they were going to be burned. And he was right, but he was alone. So I'm not saying United States could not potentially be right, but I think it's wrong. And if you have a problem with the countries between you guys, don't have everybody else, vote against you or vote against you, but then they act the way you want them to act. They don't do business. Germany doesn't do business with Cuba. France doesn't do business with Cuba. Great Britain doesn't do business with Cuba. Why? And they vote for the resolution to condemn the guy who doesn't let them, or is going to be like, who's coming over. The same in Mediterranean Sea right now. United States over there. Israel is behind. Who comes over? I'm going to punch you in. I'm ready. Who's coming? Huh? You Lebanon? You Syria? You Iran? Who's coming? And then obviously the guy's going to vote for you because you veto a lot of shit for them too. Just pay attention. As I said, the information is there, my friends. It's not something that's, oh my God, hidden. The document urges every country to, and I'm quoting, refrain from promulgating and applying any economic sanctions against Cuba, and states that the United Nations General Assembly is concerned over the fact that the economic, commercial, and financial embargo against Cuba is still in place. The resolution also calls on any country that continues to uphold such restrictions against Havana to repeal or invalidate them as soon as possible. Last year, the US and Israel were also the only two nations that voted against the document, while Brazil joined Ukraine in abstaining from the vote. My friends, what do you want? The US initially broke off diplomatic relations with Cuba in 1960 after Fidel Castro and the Communist Party of Cuba defeated the US-backed military dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista in 1959. Washington also imposed a military blockade of the island in 1962 during a nuclear missile crisis with the Soviet Union. The economic blockade has been in place ever since. My friends, this is us, right? Supposedly. And then you say, well, don't go and travel in those countries because they don't like Americans. They like Americans. They don't like the guys in charge of America. But that's a different story. But we have the consequences, negative consequences directed towards us as citizens, because those idiots that we voted for some, or did not vote for, but they are voted in the office, and then they appoint their guys over there like Blinken, Yellen, Newland, and others. They are just appointed over there, and then they are doing policies over there. They enforce policy. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Who's who, what's what? Just pay attention. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.